Okay, so you know that feeling, right? When you're like super psyched to learn something new or finally hit the gym or like conquer some big goal you've had.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got that initial like spark, the excitement,
Definitely.
but then like actually keeping that fire going,
Yeah,
that's the tough part, right?
totally the hard part.
Sticking with it.
It's like the follow through.
Yeah. The long game.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out there's like a whole field dedicated to figuring that out. And it's called gamification.
Gamification, yeah.
It's kind of cool when you think about it.
Oh, for sure.
It's basically taking those elements from games that make them fun.
Yeah.
Like getting points, leveling up rewards and stuff.
Right. All that stuff.
And applying them to like everyday things like learning or health or even like your job.
Exactly. It's like tricking your brain into staying engaged.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
Using psychology to make things more fun.
Exactly.
And it's honestly everywhere these days.
It really is, yeah.
I mean, you see it like schools using it to make lessons more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You see fitness apps that reward you for hitting your goals.
Yep.
Businesses using it to keep their teams motivated.
Uh-huh.
So clearly something's working there, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's tapping into like a really basic human thing, that need for achievement to like see that progress. And it's been shown to be super effective.
Makes you wonder if we could apply it to more stuff.
Maybe, but at the same time, there's this whole other thing happening too.
Okay, what's that?
Well, it's this incredible wave of like innovation in artificial intelligence.
AI, it's everywhere these days.
Right, but specifically with LLMs.
LLMs. Okay, now break that down for me. What are those?
So LLMs are large language models.
Okay.
And basically, they're this type of AI that can like understand and generate text that like feels incredibly human,
Okay, so like the chatbots that are getting so good now?
Kind of, yeah. It's like having a conversation with a computer, but it's way more advanced.
Okay, so how do they fit into this gamification thing?
Well, imagine an AI that could create like learning materials that are like perfectly suited to how you learn, or like give you feedback that feels like you're talking to a personal coach.
Oh, okay, that's next level.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna like dig into today.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So the big question is, what happens when you take these super smart AI, these LLMs, and you combine them with the power of gamification?
Oh, that's interesting, like mixing the two together.
Yeah, it's like a recipe for something potentially revolutionary, and that's where this paper comes in.
Oh, okay. Which paper are we talking about?
So it's called Integrating LLMs in Gamified Systems by Carlos J. Costa. And it basically lays out this brand new mathematical way of thinking about how to put these two things together.
So he's got like a formula for this AI-powered gamification thing.
Yeah, it's a framework that's based on math, but it's not as dry as it sounds, I promise.
Okay, good, because I'm not exactly a math whiz.
No worries. It's actually really fascinating stuff. So the main idea is to create these systems that are way better at keeping you engaged.
Okay, so like keeping people from getting bored and giving up.
Exactly. And also like adapting to how you're doing in real time.
Interesting. So it adjusts to you as you go.
Yeah, and it's all about making the rewards like actually hit the mark.
So they actually keep you motivated, not just like meaningless points or something.
Exactly. It's about making the whole experience more effective.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see the potential here. But how does it actually work?
Well, that's what this deep dive is all about.
Okay, perfect. Break it down for me.
So we're going to unpack the key concepts of this framework. You see how it was tested in a simulated environment, and then like explore all the exciting ways this could actually work in the real world.
Cool. So like from the theory to the practice.
Exactly. And think of this like your cheat sheet to understanding how AI could like totally transform how we learn, how we take care of our health, even how businesses connect with us.
All right, cheat sheet acquired. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Sounds good.
All right, so this paper starts off by making a really interesting point.
Okay, what's that?
Well, there's been a lot of research happening separately on gamification and LLMs.
Right.
But there hasn't really been a clear, systematic way to like bring them together.
Yeah, it's like we've got all these great ingredients, but no recipe.
That's a great analogy.
And that's what's so cool about this research is like finally getting that missing recipe.
Okay, so no more separate ingredients. It's time to cook something up.
Exactly. And the main aim is to create a formal structure for incorporating LLMs into these gamified systems.
Got it.
And the focus is really on using those dynamic and personalized abilities of LLMs to make the whole experience more engaging.
So it's not just slapping some AI on top of a game-like system and hoping for the best.
Right. It's way more sophisticated than that.
There's like a method to the madness.
Exactly.
And the paper talks about like a 3-step process.
Okay. I'm listening.
First, they develop a mathematical framework.
Hmm.
Then they test it with a simulation.
Yeah,
And finally, they look at how it can be applied in real situations.
it's a roadmap, yeah.
Okay, I like a good roadmap.
Yeah, and the researcher really went all in. He developed this full-blown mathematical model.
Oh, math alert.
I know, but bear with me because this is actually the foundation of the whole thing.
All right, you've convinced me, I'm all ears.
Okay, so this mathematical model, it gives us a way to put numbers on things like how engaged a user is, how tasks can change, and how to make rewards super effective.
Okay, so it's like a toolkit for measuring and predicting how well these combined systems will actually work.
That's a great way to put it.
Toolkit acquired. Now let's open it up and see what's inside.
All right, let's dive in.
So first up, we've got these key equations.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is all about user engagement.
Okay, that's key.
And it looks like this DETT.
Okay, that's a bit of a mouthful.
I know, right? It's giving me algebra flashbacks.
Don't worry, I'll break it down for you.
Please do.
All right, so first we've got ET, which represents how engaged a user is at a specific point in time.
Okay, so like how hooked they are on the whole thing.
Exactly. And then the TLT part that basically describes how that engagement changes over time.
Okay, so like, is it going up? Is it going down, staying the same?
Right. And the right side of the equation, it's looking at the factors that influence that change.
Okay, I'm following so far.
Good. So on one side, we've got RT.
Alpha R of T.
Right. So RT is how often and how good the rewards are that the system gives the user.
Okay, like how juicy those rewards are.
Yeah, exactly. And alpha RT, that's like a dial that controls how much those rewards actually impact the user's engagement.
Okay, so like if alpha is high, rewards have a bigger effect on keeping people interested.
You got it. Rewards equal engagement.
Makes sense.
Now, for the other side of the equation,
Minus beta D of T. Okay, what's that all about?
so this part is all about what makes people lose interest.
The engagement killers.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So DAT is the rate of disengagement. You know, all the things that make people less interested.
Okay, like getting bored, frustrated, or just having other stuff going on in their lives.
Exactly. And beta RT is another dial.
Another dial. Okay.
But this one controls how strongly those negative factors pull users away.
So a higher beta means people get disengaged faster when those negative things are happening.
Precisely.
So it's like a constant tug of war between the rewards and the things that make you want to quit.
That's a really good way to think about it.
And this equation helps us see who's winning.
Yeah, it can predict whether users will stick around or not based on that balance.
And that's super useful for anyone designing these systems, right?
Oh, absolutely, because it tells you that you need to focus on both boosting the rewards and minimizing those things that lead to disengagement.
It's like a two-pronged approach.
Exactly.
Okay, equation 1 decoded.
Nice.
Now on to equation 2.
All right, what's number 2 about?
This one tackles task adaptation.
Okay, so like how the challenges adjust to the user.
You got it. And here's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Type plus 1,
Mm-hmm.
type plus UT.
All right, another alphabet soup equation.
Don't worry, I'm getting better at this decoding stuff.
Okay, good. I'm ready when you are.
All right, so type, that's the difficulty of a task at a certain time.
Right, so like how hard or easy it is.
Yeah, and the whole equation is showing how that difficulty changes over time.
Okay, so it's not a fixed difficulty, it adjusts.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
You know, the sweet spot.
Yeah, where the task is hard enough to keep you interested,
Mm-hmm.
but not so hard that you just want to give up.
Yeah, right. It's got to be just right.
Yeah, the Goldilocks zone of challenge.
I like that.
Oh, UT, that represents how well the user is doing at the task.
So like how many points they're scoring or how fast they're completing things?
Exactly. And then C, yeah, that's what the system considers to be a good level of performance for that specific task.
Okay, so like the benchmark.
Yeah, and Gamma goal. That's our dial again.
Oh, the dial's back.
It's controlling how quickly the task difficulty changes based on the difference between how the user is doing and what the system expects.
Okay, so if the user is crushing it, the task gets harder, and if they're struggling, it gets easier.
Exactly. And Gamma controls how big those adjustments are.
Got it.
So essentially, it's constantly tweaking the challenge to keep it matched to the user's skill level.
Precisely. And that's super important for personalization.
Yeah, because it keeps things fresh and prevents people from either getting bored or getting discouraged.
It's about keeping them in that zone we talked about where the challenge is just right.
The Goldilocks zone.
Exactly.
Now, last but not least, we've got equation number 3.
Hit me with it.
This one's all about optimizing rewards.
Okay, so figuring out how to give out those points and badges in the best way possible.
You got it, and here's the equation. R at W1G at W. W1.
Oh boy, another one.
But don't worry, this one's not too bad.
Okay, I'm ready.
So this equation helps determine the reward R at for a specific action that the user takes.
So like clicking a button or completing a level.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
And it's all based on balancing the long-term benefit of that action with the immediate cost.
okay, so like thinking ahead versus what you have to put in right now.
Exactly. So GAD, that represents the long-term gain.
So things like learning a new skill or getting closer to a big goal.
Exactly. And then CAT, that's the immediate cost.
So like the time, effort, or resources you need to put in right now.
Yep. And then we've got our trusty dials again, W1 and W2.
The dials, they always come back.
They're like the unsung heroes of this whole framework.
I guess so.
So these weights, W1 and W2, they let the system decide how much it values long-term gains versus immediate costs.
Okay, so it can prioritize the quick reward or the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's important because different people are motivated by different things.
True. Some people need that instant gratification, while others are all about the long game.
And this system can account for that.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
So basically, this equation lets us design rewards that encourage the behaviors we want by considering both the short-term and long-term consequences.
That's a good summary.
Thanks, I'm getting the hang of this.
You're doing great.
Now, the paper also briefly mentioned something called Q learning.
Ah, yes, Q learning.
It's a type of reinforcement learning, right?
It is, and it's a key part of how the system actually learns and adapts.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So in Q learning, the system figures out the best action to take in any given situation by trying things out and seeing what kind of rewards it gets.
Interesting. So it's like learning by doing.
Exactly like trial and error, but with an AI brain.
Okay, that's powerful.
It is, and the paper gives this equation for it, QSTS at S HDS plus Q, max T plus 1.
Okay, I'm not even going to try to decode that one.
No worries. It's basically saying that the best action to take depends on both the immediate reward you get and the best possible future reward you can expect.
So it's like thinking ahead, like playing chess.
Yeah, and the system is constantly updating its understanding of which actions lead to the best outcomes.
So it's not just following a set of rules, it's actually learning and getting better over time.
That's the beauty of reinforcement learning.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the big picture here. We've got these equations that lay out the framework for how the system works.
Yeah.
We've got Q learning that helps the system actually learn and improve. But how do we know if it all actually works in practice?
That's where the simulation comes in.
Okay, so tell me about this simulation.
Yeah.
What did they actually do?
So they created this like a mini version of a real gamified system.
Like a virtual playground.
Yeah, exactly. And they had different types of users, each with their own like engagement patterns.
Okay, so like some people get bored easily, some are more persistent.
Exactly. And they also had tasks that could get harder or easier depending on how well the user was doing.
So that task adaptation we talked about in action?
Precisely. And they used a reinforcement learning algorithm to guide how the system responded to the users.
So the AI was learning as it went.
Yeah, it was figuring out how to keep those virtual users engaged.
And what did they find?
So remember those parameters we talked about?
Alpha, beta, gamma, our trusty dials.
Yeah, well, they could actually see how changing those parameters directly affected how engaged the users were and how the task difficulty changed over time.
So they were like playing with the dials and seeing what happened.
Exactly. And they visualized all of this in Figure 1, which is like a graph that shows how those different settings impact the system.
Okay, so they could see like visually how sensitive the system was to those different controls.
Precisely.
And how they could tweak them to get different results in terms of keeping people engaged and giving them the right level of challenge.
Yeah, it was like seeing the framework come to life.
So not just numbers on a page, but actual changes in the simulation.
Right. And it was really cool to see because they noticed these 3 distinct phases of user engagement.
Oh, interesting. What were they?
So first there was this initial boost in engagement.
Probably because of those initial rewards. Right, like that new game feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Then there was a middle phase where engagement would kind of fluctuate up and down.
Probably as the tasks got harder or easier depending on how the user was doing.
Exactly. And then there was this longer-term phase where engagement would either stabilize or even cycle up and down.
So it's like the initial excitement, then some ups and downs as you find your groove, and then hopefully it settles into a good rhythm.
That's a great way to put it.
And the fact that it stabilized or cycled suggests that the framework was actually working to keep engagement within a certain range.
Yeah.
Right? It was like self-regulating.
Exactly. Using those rewards strategically and adjusting things to keep people from losing interest.
Okay, so that's engagement. But what about the task difficulty itself.
Well, the simulation showed how that adapted, too. It was constantly reacting to how well the user was performing.
So if they were doing well, the tasks got harder, and if they were struggling, they got easier.
Exactly. And it was all about finding that balance we talked about.
Goldilocks zone.
Yes, the Goldilocks zone of challenge.
And that's so important for avoiding boredom and frustration.
Absolutely.
Because if the challenge isn't right for your skill level, you're just not going to stay engaged.
It's all connected.
It is. And what's cool is that the system isn't just reacting, it's learning too.
That's thanks to the Q learning.
Right. So it's constantly getting better at figuring out how to interact with the user to keep them happy and engaged.
Exactly. It's like having an AI coach that's always learning about you and how to best motivate you.
Okay, so the simulation was really about seeing all of these dynamic interactions in action.
Right. It was about testing the framework in a controlled environment and seeing how it performed.
And it sounds like it performed pretty well.
It did. It showed that the framework could actually keep users engaged, make the rewards effective, and adjust the tasks in real time.
Which is exactly what it was designed to do.
Right. So the simulation provided really good evidence that this approach could actually work.
Okay, I'm convinced the simulation was a success.
And the really cool part is that the system's sensitivity to those parameters, alpha, beta, gamma.
Our trusty dials.
It's actually a good thing because it means you can customize the experience.
So you can tailor it to different types of users?
Exactly.
Different learning goals and different behaviors you're trying to encourage?
It's a flexible system.
Okay, so we've got this awesome framework that's been tested and proven to work. But now the big question is, where can we actually use this in the real world?
Yeah, let's talk real-world applications.
The paper gives some great examples across different industries.
All right, let's hear them.
Let's start with education.
Okay, how could LLMs change the game in learning?
Well, imagine a world where students have access to AI-powered tutors that can give them personalized feedback in real time and adjust the difficulty of what they're learning based on how they're doing.
Whoa, okay, that's next-level tutoring.
Right, like if a student's struggling with math, the system could create practice problems that are tailored to their specific weaknesses or explain things in a way that makes more sense to them.
It's amazing.
And the potential impact is huge.
Yeah, I can see how that would really help students learn better and keep them from getting discouraged.
Exactly. It could revolutionize the way we learn.
Okay, I'm sold on education. What about healthcare?
Well, we've already got gamification in health apps, but LLMs could make them way more effective.
Okay, how so?
By creating health challenges and fitness plans that are truly personalized to you.
Interesting. So not just generic advice, but something that's designed for your specific needs.
Exactly. So imagine an AI-powered walking program.
Okay.
For someone just starting out, it might suggest shorter, easier walks and give them lots of encouragement.
Okay, that makes sense.
But for someone who's more experienced, it could suggest more challenging routes and provide detailed feedback on their progress.
So it's like having a virtual coach that knows your fitness level.
Exactly. And the LLM could even adjust the intensity of your workout based on how you're feeling that day.
So it adapts to you in real time.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
That's amazing. And I can definitely see how that would help people stick to their health goals.
Yeah, it's all about making it easier and more motivating to stay on track.
All right. Healthcare is a win. What's next?
Let's talk retail.
Retail. Okay, interesting.
So loyalty programs are already a thing.
Yeah, most stores have them.
But they're often pretty generic.
True. You just get the same discounts as everyone else.
Exactly. But LLMs could make them way more personal and engaging.
No, I like where this is going.
So instead of sending out the same coupons to everyone, the store could use an LLM to analyze your past purchases and your preferences, and then offer you special deals or recommend products that you're actually likely to want.
So it's like the store actually knows you and what you like.
Exactly. And they could even create gamified loyalty programs with personalized challenges and rewards based on how you interact with the brand.
Okay, that's smart.
It is.
Right.
And it could really boost customer loyalty because people feel more valued and appreciated.
Yeah, I'd definitely be more likely to shop somewhere if I felt like they were going the extra mile for me.
Exactly. It's all about personalization.
Okay, I'm on board with retail.
Now, how about something a little different? Corporate training.
Corporate training. Okay. How would gamification and LLMs work there?
So imagine interactive role-playing scenarios that are powered by an LLM.
Okay, like a simulation.
Exactly. And the scenarios would change in real time based on how well the employee is doing.
So it adapts to their skill level.
Exactly. And the LLM can give them immediate, personalized feedback and suggest ways to improve.
Wow, so it's like having a virtual mentor guiding you through real-world situations.
Exactly. And that's so much more effective than just watching videos or reading manuals.
Yeah, it's way more engaging and relevant to their actual job.
And it could really help employees learn faster and feel more confident in their abilities.
I can see how that would be a game changer for employee training.
And last but not least, let's talk about entertainment.
Entertainment. Okay, now we're talking my language.
This is where things get really exciting.
Lay it on me.
So imagine video games where the story isn't fixed,
Okay.
but it evolves based on the choices you make as a player.
Whoa, that's like choose your own adventure, but on steroids.
Exactly. And an LLM could generate new dialogue, come up with new plot points, and even change the entire game world based on your actions.
So it's a truly unique experience every time you play.
Exactly. And it would make the whole thing so much more engaging and immersive.
That's the dream, right? A story that truly feels like it's your own.
Exactly. And LLMs could make that dream a reality.
Wow. Okay, you've convinced me.
So across all these different areas,
Yeah.
the ability of LLMs to personalize the experience, to give real-time feedback, and to create dynamic content.
It's really what makes this whole thing so powerful.
Yeah, it takes gamification to a whole new level.
It's like gamification 2.0.
I like that.
And the framework really shows us how to make it work.
Okay, so to wrap things up,
Mm-hmm.
what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember from all of this?
Okay, so the big idea here is that by combining LLMs with gamification, we have this incredible opportunity to create experiences that are more engaging, more personalized, and ultimately more effective.
Across a huge range of industries.
Exactly, and we're not just talking about making things more fun.
Right, it's about real impact.
Yeah, like better learning outcomes, improved health, and stronger connections with customers.
And maybe even revolutionizing the way we experience entertainment. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay, sure.
Think about the potential of these systems in areas that we haven't even discussed yet.
Like what?
Well, like what about using it to encourage people to be more environmentally friendly or to volunteer in their communities?
Oh, wow, yeah.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
It really makes you think about how technology can be used to make a positive difference.
And that's what's so exciting about this whole field.
Absolutely. It's the future is how we interact with the world.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
No problem. It was a great conversation.
It definitely gave us a lot to think about.
It did.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.